It started with a letter. The letter appeared in a veteran's magazine, 1990. An old man had written it, quietly. A few paragraphs, the kind of letter that most people skim past. He was not asking for sympathy. He was not telling a war story. He was looking for someone. He described a German aircraft. He described a gesture. He described a moment over the skies of occupied Europe, 47 years earlier. And at the bottom of the letter, he wrote something simple. If you know who this man was, I'd like to find him. To understand the letter, you need to understand the morning. The American was a bomber pilot, young, 21 years old, flying a B-17 over northern Germany on his first mission. His aircraft had been hit badly. 2 engines destroyed, the nose section shattered, the tail nearly gone. 3 of his crew were wounded. The heating had failed. They were losing altitude over enemy territory in winter. His gunners were out of ammunition. He had no way to defend his aircraft, no way to call for help, no reasonable chance of making it home. And then the fighter appeared. The German pilot was not a young man looking for his first kill. He was an ace. 22 Allied aircraft to his name. Decorated, experienced, disciplined. He flew a Messerschmitt, Bf-109, one of Germany's finest aircraft, and he had spotted the crippled bomber from a distance. He came in close, closer than any attacker would, close enough to see inside the cockpit, close enough to see the crew, close enough to see that the guns were silent. The shot was clean. The angle was perfect. The ammunition was ready. He had everything he needed. He did nothing. Instead, he flew alongside, not in attack formation, alongside, wing to wing. He looked at the damage. He looked at the men. He looked at the fear inside that cockpit. And then he did something that had no name in the regulations. He waved off the German anti-aircraft guns on the coast below, used hand signals through the glass, guiding the bomber, protecting it. For 17 minutes, a German ace escorted an American bomber through German airspace. Then he nodded, and he turned away. The bomber limped to England. The crew survived. The German pilot returned to his base. He never reported the encounter. To report it would have been to confess to a violation of direct orders. In wartime Germany, that had consequences he preferred not to consider. So both men carried the silence. The American couldn't explain it. How do you tell anyone that your enemy saved your life? The German couldn't explain it either. How do you tell anyone that you let your enemy go? So neither of them did. For years, for decades. Until an old man sat down at a desk in 1990 and wrote a letter to a veteran's magazine. Because some things are too heavy to carry to the grave. Now, history will tell you this was a story about mercy. History is half right. What history forgets is what happened before the bomber appeared. That same morning, before he ever climbed into his cockpit, the German pilot had watched something on the runway. His commanding officer had just executed a downed Allied airman in cold blood. On the tarmac, the ace had walked away from that scene saying nothing. Outwardly calm, inwardly, something had closed. He had made a private decision in that moment, not in writing, not to anyone, just to himself. about what kind of soldier he intended to be. So when the crippled bomber appeared in his sights, the decision was already made. It wasn't made in the cockpit. It was made on the runway, minutes before. The hidden detail was never the mercy. The hidden detail was the disgust that had preceded it. The man who wrote the letter in 1990 was named Charlie Brown, a retired American pilot, First Lieutenant, 379th Bombardment Group. He had spent 47 years wondering if the man who spared his life was still alive. He was. The German ace who read the letter in the same magazine was named Franz Stigler, one of Germany's most decorated fighter pilots, a man who, at the moment of his easiest kill, had chosen to become something his country's war could not contain. They met, two old men, former enemies. They embraced. They spent the next 17 years as the closest of friends. When Franz Stigler died in 2008, Charlie Brown delivered the eulogy. Franz Stigler was one kill short of Germany's highest aviation honor. He left it on the table, not because he was weak, not because he lost his nerve, but because he had already decided that morning on the runway that there were things a man does not do, regardless of orders, regardless of war, regardless of what history would remember. History remembers wars. It forgets the men who quietly refuse to become what wars require, and that was the hidden detail. Did you guess it? Did you catch who it was? And how one hidden detail can change everything? If you caught it, stay with us for the next file. The archives are never truly empty. Now you know the hidden detail. I'm Ada Vale. Good night.